Everyone knows about Neanderthals. They're in every documentary, every meme, every "humans aren't so special" headline. But while Europe was busy with Neanderthals, something far stranger was living on a small volcanic island in Indonesia. A human species barely over a meter tall, with a brain the size of a grapefruit, that somehow survived for over 700,000 years. And the strangest part isn't that they existed. It's how recently we found out just how wrong we were about them. In 2003, a team of Australian and Indonesian archaeologists was digging in a limestone cave called Liang on the island of Flores. They expected to find evidence of modern humans. Instead, they found a nearly complete skeleton of an adult female, standing about 1 meter tall, shorter than the average 6-year-old today. At first, some scientists assumed it was a sick individual, maybe a case of but then they found more. An entire population. Scientists named it Homo Floresiensis. The internet, almost instantly, named it something else: the Hobbit. Here's where the story gets interesting, and where most videos about the Hobbit are already outdated. For years, the accepted timeline said Homo Floresiensis survived until around 12,000 years ago, which would have made it the longest surviving human species besides us, overlapping with the rise of agriculture elsewhere on the planet. But newer excavations revised that completely. The layers of the cave had shifted more than anyone realized. The real picture, Homo Floresiensis, likely went extinct around 50,000 years ago. And in 2025, researchers found something even more specific. A severe, decades-long drought hit Flores right around that time, forcing the hobbits to leave the cave they'd called home for over 140,000 years, searching for water and food. That search may have brought them face to face with a new arrival on the island: us. But it gets stranger. In 2016, archaeologists working at a site called Menge, not far from Liang, found jaw and arm bone fragments dating back roughly 700,000 years, ancestors of the Hobbit. And these ancestors were even smaller. This tells us something remarkable. This lineage didn't shrink overnight. It spent hundreds of thousands of years isolated on this one island, evolving independently, getting smaller generation after generation, a process scientists call island dwarfism, the same phenomenon that produced dwarf elephants and giant rats on isolated islands elsewhere in the world. Flores wasn't just home to a strange human species. It was running its own separate experiment in human evolution for the better part of 1 million years, while the rest of the world had no idea it existed. Here's why this matters beyond Flores. For decades, the story of human evolution was told almost entirely through fossils found in Africa and Europe, because that's where most of the funded expeditions happened, and that's where most of the researchers were from. Homo Floresiensis forced the field to admit something uncomfortable. We'd been telling an incomplete story. Not because the evidence wasn't there, but because almost nobody was looking in Southeast Asia. And there's one more twist: genetics. Modern populations in this exact region, including in Papua and across Wallacea, carry the highest percentage of Denisovan DNA found anywhere on Earth. A different archaic human lineage entirely. One we still don't have a complete skeleton for. Whatever happened in human evolution during the last 1 million years, an enormous part of that story happened right here, in the waters between Asia and Australia, not in Europe. So, if an entire separate branch of humanity could live undiscovered on one island for nearly 1 million years, what did it take for our own ancestors, full-sized, fully modern sapiens, to actually get here, cross open water, and keep going, all the way to Australia and beyond? The answer involves boats that shouldn't have existed yet, and a journey most history classes skip entirely. That's next.